What's up, guys? It is Dan from FightWave. Hopefully you guys are having a fantastic day. Today I'm privileged to be joined by one of my favorite flyweights on the active roster right now. He's 2-0 in the UFC, and I know fight fans want to see more of him in the UFC, and I think 2025 is the perfect opportunity to see that. He faces Tagir Ulanbekov at UFC 311 next week on January 18th. I'm privileged to be joined by the Carpenter himself, Clayton Carpenter. Thank you so much, Clayton, for your time. First and foremost, how are you feeling, man? I know you just got out of a great training session. You know, momentum's right now at an all-time high. You're just winding down camp. Next week you head out to LA for the fight against Tagir Ulanbekov. How are you feeling?
I feel great. You know, my weight's on point. Training's been going really solid. Yeah, everything's been pretty smooth.
Awesome. And, you know, first and foremost, I got to say, when we come into the MMA lab, the hospitality that you guys have shown us has been absolutely incredible. And just seeing the work firsthand, I really got to say it is motivating just to see you guys in your element. And I think a lot of fight fans, you know, when you talk about flyweights right now in the UFC, that they want to see a lot more of, and just for potential purposes, you are one of the guys at the top of the list. You know, you look at what you've done in the UFC thus far. Talk to me a little bit just about how you're feeling on some of the stuff that you want to go and prove in this fight against Tagir Ulanbekov. He's a great opponent to go in there and make a statement victory against. What are some of the emotions when you look at the opponent and you look at what you hope to prove in 2025 to not just yourself but to the fight fans?
To 2025, I think I have a real big opportunity with this next opponent. And, you know, he's got a really famous fight camp behind him. You know, I'm pretty sure Khabib and all the Urgamedovs are going to be in the corner. So it's going to be cool, you know, and it really kind of lights me up. It gets me fired up. And I would say that, you know, a statement that I'm trying to make is being dangerous from any position, whether it's on the feet, on top, or on my back. Regardless of where I'm at, I'm going to be a threat.
Definitely. And one of the things I got to say is when we've seen your fights thus far, you are a prolific finisher in the UFC thus far. You know, 2-0 in the UFC with finishes on top of your Contender Series fight, which I think was one of the best performances I've seen on the Contender Series.
Thank you.
Against Edgar Shirez. You know, just a great performance all around and really showing how much of a well-versed grappler you are. And when you look at it in this fight, you know, it's a grappler, not necessarily grappler versus grappler, but, you know, obviously coming from that Nurmagomedov camp, Tagir Ulanbekov is going to want to showcase that grappling. What do you hope to prove with this fight? Not just, like you said, not just showing off your well-rounded capabilities, but against a guy from a prolific camp, like you mentioned, you know, just some of, not necessarily the game plan, giving away too much to the fans at home, but some of the stuff that you hope to accomplish in this fight, just maybe from a martial artist standpoint.
Well, it's pretty simple. You know, Tagir's just going to do what he's always done, which is basically, you know, get on top and pray and hold, you know. So that's going to be his thing. He doesn't really have any really threatening finishes from the takedowns, you know, and he doesn't really do a whole lot of damage. So it's going to be a great fight, you know. It's going to be a great fight, and we're aware of what he's going to try and do, and I'm just going to try and make it not be a boring fight.
Definitely. And first and foremost, right now in this flyweight division, you know, you look at it, it is probably the best the flyweight division has ever looked. And I think
agree.
Just the talent right now from top to bottom, when you envision it from 2020 to 2025, 5 years later, there is so many new names. There's so many new guys in the division. How excited are you? Like you said, you've got a great opponent to kickstart the year, but then you've got so many other guys after that you can look at and be like a kid in a candy store.
It's stacked.
It is stacked.
The division is super stacked right now, and I feel like the spotlight has been on our division recently just because we put on a show. You know, there's been a lot of, like, you know, heavyweight fights, a lot of, like, welterweight fights where the fights are super hyped. You know, there's a lot of promotion behind it, and then it goes to show, and then it's kind of like a dud, you know, where people are disappointed, you know, and people are kind of like, ugh. And then, you know, the flyweights are always putting the pressure. Always putting the pressure, always making it exciting, and I think people are finally starting to realize that, because I think we've always been exciting, you know, but I feel like we kind of got put on the back burner. Our division kind of got put on the back burner. And I feel like now that people are seeing other fights kind of turning out to be duds, they're like, no, you know, the flyweights are kind of more of a for sure thing.
Definitely. I think when it comes to flyweights, you know, just it's more of a guarantee nowadays. When you see a flyweight fight, you know it's going to deliver. And I think that's one of the best things about the division. And then on top of that, you know, there are so many great unranked guys and guys that are just getting into that range. You got the Joshua Vans, you've got the you know, the Charles Johnson, who's been a perennial guy that I think gets disrespected time and time again. And I think that's like a fight I would love to see you against, you know, potentially down the line. But Charles Johnson.
Oh, yeah, Charles Johnson.
That would be a great fight. And then, you know, just on top of that, looking at the division right now, there's so many new guys. You know, you got Azam Maxim, you got Asu Almabayev. Like the list goes on and on. The Kazakhs stay basically in that division.
There's a bunch of good guys. Yeah. There's a bunch of good guys. There's a newer guy too that just won the Contender Series.
Yeah. Loner Kavanaugh.
Loner, yeah, Loner's good. And Tatsuro, you know, like it's full of killers.
Yeah, and then, you know, just looking at right now the event, Benny, we were talking about it a little bit off air, but Intuit Dome, for a lot of people who don't know, I think is one of the best stadiums right now. And obviously there's a lot of uncertainty right now with LA.
All the fires.
And we'll find out right now a little bit more like after the interview and just like in the next week. But, you know, assuming that the event does go forward at the Intuit Dome, you look at the event, you know, we're talking about it off air. That stadium's going to be packed to the brim with whether it's Georgian fans, whether it's Armenian fans from the very get-go. And it's going to be an incredible environment. So how excited are you just in terms of not necessarily fighting in the Apex anymore? You're fighting in a live crowd and in a setting that you know from the very start of the fight, the very first fight, it's going to be a lot of guys in there looking to just support a guy or just watch some great fights.
I mean, that'd be cool. I was kind of thinking that there wasn't really going to be a whole lot of people since I'm the first fight of the card. It's always kind of dead. Yeah. So I didn't really think it was going to be that packed, you know, but I'm excited to just finally be in an arena. Yeah. You know, I've been fighting in, you know, little arenas and like mid, you know, compared to this. But it's just nice to finally be back in arena and finally be out of the Apex.
Definitely. And one thing I got to highlight, because I think that in terms of heritage and culture, I think that's a big part about the fight game that I love. And you know, you look at you've got obviously the Irish background and the Mexican heritage. When you look at going in there and putting on a show, and maybe for people who don't know, you know, how much of that kind of motivates you to go in there and perform and, you know, maybe get recognized by, you know, the people of your countries, and, you know, just being able to put on a great performance for them and being able to showcase like, hey, you know, maybe I haven't done it, maybe I haven't showcased it as much, but I am so proud of my heritage, so proud of my culture, and just showcasing that and seeing the love come from them.
You know, I love repping my bloodline, you know, and I gotta show up for the Mexican, Irish, like fucking blood,
like dude. Massive fighting spirit.
I'm like, there to fucking throw down. And but you know, I'm American at heart. Obviously, I was born here, you know, but you know, I love my roots. I love my roots, and I really have a lot of respect for my roots and my bloodline, and, you know, all the sacrifices made from both sides.
Definitely. And of course, you know, first and foremost, Clayton, thank you so much for
Absolutely.
your time, brother. A privilege to speak with you. And on a final note, of course, we're at the beginning of 2025, a week into the year. We're already seeing the work that you put in firsthand. We know that you're a hard worker. You know, talking about the year, you've mentioned, you know, just kind of the goals as a fighter, but what are some goals for Clayton Carpenter? And what is your message to just the supporters at home that may be supporting you, whether it's, you know, abroad, international, or here in the States?
My goal is to just keep evolving. Keep evolving, never stop learning, and start to make my climb. You know, this is going to be, you know, it's the biggest fight for me, and it's going to be the highest ranked fight, and it's time for me to start making my mark. Absolutely. And, you know, putting my stamp on it.
Definitely. That's it. I can't wait to watch you fight come January 18th. I think it's going to be a phenomenal fight to kickstart the card. And to the fans at home watching, do be sure to check out Clayton Carpenter versus Tagir Ulanbekov, the very first fight on the UFC 311 card. You do not want to miss this fight from bell to bell. It is going to be a barn burner, to say the least. So check out Clayton on social media. It's been me, Dan, from FightWave. If you guys do enjoy this interview, do be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and have a great day, guys.